Hello, hello, and welcome back. I am so glad you're here. This podcast has become a place where we explore what it means to really live with intention, to lead from the heart, and to walk into life with deeper connection to mind, body, and soul. And whether I'm sitting down with a guest or just sharing what I'm learning in real time, my hope is that you will hear something that invites you back to yourself. So let's take a breath and let's drop in and listen in on the conversation today. Today, I'm joined with Mara Marchesi. She's a cycle breaker, and her passion for helping others breaking cycles of limitation stems from her own personal experiences. Starting with an international move and then the death of her father, Mara's journey of breaking cycles is a lived experience. Mara, welcome to the show today.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you. And as our listeners know, we just dive right in. We don't stay in the surface, we don't stay in the
Let's
shallow.
go.
We just dive right in. And so, can you take us to a pivotal moment in your life that shifted something so deeply within you? If you can share with us about that time and what was going on in your life, take us there.
There, I would say there are three very, very important moments. And you mentioned two. One was me moving from Italy to the UK, to London. And that kind of helped me to find my own way without having people around telling me what
Mm,
to do, who I needed to be, how I was supposed to live, particularly my narcissistic mother. Then when my dad passed away in 2015, that switch went from me just saying I want to be a life coach, which I had been saying for probably 6 years, to actually take action and start a
mm,
course and start a certification and all of that. But I would say that the most pivotal moment arrived for me in 2021 because my soul at some point, so I mentioned I have a narcissistic mother, so that affects you no matter what you do in your relationships. And it what I realized is that starting my business in 2019, I came across all kind of limitations, the one that I knew and the one that I had no idea about. And so
mm,
I started doing quite a lot of work on some of the things, particularly, obviously, luck mindset, money, and all of that. And I really started diving deeper into inner child healing. And I started to learn all of these types with my mom and how I was showing up in my life, not just in my business,
mm,
but in my life, my relationships, why I was always attracting, I don't know, that kind of friends that will eventually betray me or try to keep me small, things like that, work wise, all of that.
mm,
And so I was doing that kind of work for me. And I then became passionate to help my clients because I realized there was so much resonance with my journey. And I could see, and I started to connect all of the dots, and I started to be very good at doing that. But I guess that you start to do what you're doing because you have a mission and you have to heal that part of yourself. I don't think it's a
yeah.
coincidence that I do what I do. I think it's because I needed to heal that. So, 2020 was the COVID year, and 2021, out of the blue, I didn't know, towards the end of 2020, I started feeling like London was no longer my place. And if you knew me, people were like, what are you saying? Like, you are the crazy lover of London. Like, for you, London has always been the place to be. What are you talking about? And if you knew me, you also knew that I rather would move to the US or any other country than move back to Italy. But
Mm,
it came to me, as my intuition always does, when I ignore it, as like a actual physical sensation in my body that became a voice that said, you need to move home. And I was like, what? No, 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 this is not happening. So I did, because I've learned that I cannot ignore my intuition. And if I do, it's worse. And I'm not called the intuition queen
mm,
just because it's fancy. There is a reason for that, and I didn't choose that name. Um, so I moved, and in that 18 months that I was here, I did really, really intense work on healing my mother's wound. which was very difficult because I was here. So my plan was like, my business is going great. I am moving to London, to Italy. I'm just gonna enjoy the sun, travel around, la la la. And I completely forgot what it felt like to be with her for that long. The moment all of my boxes arrived, that's when she started showing up as I knew her. And my nervous system went crazy. And I do energy healing, I do emotional healing. This is how you get attracted to me. This is how I attract clients. And all of a sudden, no matter what I was doing the exact same thing that got me to wake up in the morning and find people that had booked sessions and, get people into my programs. And all of a sudden, aside from the people that I was already working with, I was unable to get new clients. And the only thing that had changed was me moving.
Mm.
I had not changed strategies. I had not changed the way I was showing up on social media, or I was doing the exact same thing. I was still having my podcast. I was being a guest in other people's podcasts. That's how I was getting all my clients. But just being her with my mom, um, not caring about the fact that I was 38, not caring about the fact that I was a different person, that I was working from home, that I was doing this thing. She was just all against me. And I was as terrified as I was of her when I was 16.
Mm.
And so realizing that was really difficult because my ideal of what my life was going to be completely shattered. I was in fear pretty much every single day. I was fighting her pretty much every single day. And I just couldn't do what I was doing. And obviously, that even if I kept doing what I was doing before, people could feel it. And
Yeah.
so I stopped attracting clients and I started feeling like a failure. I started feeling like that was the wrongest thing I could possibly do for myself and all of that until I started working with my healer. I called my healer and I was like, look, tell me whatever program you have going on because I need you. I am that kind of person that does a lot of work, inner work on myself constantly. And I have a lot of breakthroughs and I've healed a lot of my wounds by myself because if I do this work for my clients, I can do it for myself.
Right.
But in that moment, I was like, I just cannot. I need someone else to help me. I just don't have the lucidity and I don't feel sober. I need someone to help me out. And so I did that for 4 months. I started working with some Italian clients, but I had to lower my prices because Italy is not as ready as my market was mainly US because
Mm.
I've taken a lot of courses in the US. I've done masterminds in the US. So, and you guys are just more understanding of what this work is. Italians are very skeptical, not sure. So it was really, everything was challenging, everything was difficult. And it was so annoying because I got to a point where everything was difficult. And then I made it to a point where everything was starting to feel easy and effortless. And I almost blame myself for making that change. And then I had to remind myself, no, you're here for a reason. And I can tell you now the reason was to heal this relationship, to heal the parts of myself that still felt they couldn't show up in the way they wanted, that nothing would happen if I showed up as bright as I am. Nothing, nobody was going to steal anything from me. But those were the things that I had in my subconscious that I had
Yeah.
no idea about. So now I'm here in Italy, like I told you. And for the first time after I've done all of that work, I can see how my relationship with my mom has shifted. My mom has shifted towards me. But it's only because I've done that kind of work and I was strong to put all of the boundaries that I could, but also to show her either you respect me or you don't see me anymore. And it's a very
Mm.
difficult thing to do because, she's your mom and my dad passed away 10 years ago. But eventually I had to kind of be strong and be like, okay, keep doing the work within, and maybe nothing is ever going to change. And that's okay. I had to learn to accept that too. but somehow something shifted within her as well. And I've been here for a month because she needed to go through an operation. And it's not because she needs me. I can feel from within how different she is and how different she
Yeah.
thinks of me. Something shifted within her. And yeah, so this was for me probably the most difficult after my dad passing away. Uh, but it was, I think, the most difficult because you have your mom there. You're like, why are you behaving like this? Why are you being so nasty? Why are you always trying to put obstacles in my face? Like, can you not just be happy for who I am and what I'm doing? Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Everything is fine. Um, so that is the most difficult part too. And then also the physical part, like that constant fear that something's nasty is gonna happen to you, and
Mm.
it's gonna be happening because your mom does it to you, which it's more on an emotional level, obviously, that on a physical level, but you feel in your body as if something really terrible is gonna happen to you. And that to me, it's the most pivotal so far. I mean, the other situation that I told you have helped me, but this was so deep and so physical, and I can see how that changed the way I approach life
Yeah.
and how my clients, I can work deeper with them. I can go through biggest traumas and biggest fears because I've gone through that myself. And so now I'm like, okay, I can handle that.
You just have said so many things. So I have so many points and questions I want to um, pop in here. The first thing I want to simply is acknowledge that you had to go in and do the inner work of healing while still living in the environment
Yeah,
that your body was telling you this isn't safe, right?
yeah,
That's hard. And
it
it's
is.
also brave and courageous at the same time. And yet, I feel that that's the place where most people who begin to heal themselves sit. Because usually it's one person in the family that begins to
Mm.
change, right? And who begins to change the dynamics through their own healing.
Yeah. Yeah. And particularly because I moved countries. It's not that I moved city. And so my mom could come see me whenever she wanted, just get on a
Right.
train, you know. She had to fly over, which she only did twice, with once with my brother, once by herself, but she kind of was scared about it. So I kind of moved all the way there as a way to be like, okay, now like I want to kind of as far as possible because I need to feel free and safe. And so you get to a point where everything's fine. You have an argument with her, fine. You hang up the phone. I
Right.
was coming here for 5 days, a week, 10 days. We have an argument. I would threaten to leave the day after, and everything will kind of calm down. Just because my dad will start to go in the way and be like, leave her alone. So there was that kind of dynamic where I could always escape, and here there was no way to escape because
Yeah.
with no money, I couldn't afford a flat, and I was trapped. I felt completely trapped for months until I finished doing the healing. And then my soul was like, okay, now you're ready to go back. And I was like, what? So it wasn't because I was supposed to stay here and I'm done with London. Ah, okay, now I see. Okay, I'm going. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so tell me about the emotions of as you're healing, but yet still having to live in it, right? So you're still having to live in the relationship, in the negative energy, in whatever it is, right? You're as you're healing from it, you're still having to live in it. So what was that like that biggest emotion that was coming up and how did you handle that?
Well, the constant was fear. I was
Yeah.
terrified. I felt trapped in a way that it's not just like, so I have a tendency to feel stuck like everybody does. You feel stuck, you don't know what to do, you go on for a week, and you feel maybe a little bit sorry for yourself, and then eventually you start doing something, you start taking that little action, and you go
Hmm.
out. And but I moved to a place that is familiar, but it's no longer my place. I had no friends here, only one who is married. I'm single, I don't want kids. I'm almost 43. So it's also that kind of age where you don't make friends very easily. All the friends that you make have a family, so they don't have the time to go
Mm-hmm.
out as
Mm-hmm.
much as you'd like. So that was also aggravating the situation because I had nobody to go out with. So I was just going out by myself.
Yeah.
And then eventually I found a group of people and I started doing workshops. And, you know, they weren't my people, but they were enough for what I needed. But fear was a constant for a good 8 months before I started to do the work. Not that then it kind of started to dissipate as I started doing the work, which everything started with my friend who lives in Turin that was like, hey, I'm doing level 2 of Reiki. You already took level 1. Why don't you come up? Because she
Mm.
kind of knew. She was like, I just felt it was weird that you were
Yeah.
staying with your mom for so long. And I was like, I cannot leave. So we did level 2. And I also did a family constellation while we were there because she does that. That helped me to kind of realize that there was a fear within that was very deep and was also ancestral, and kind of reminded me that I have such a big light, and that's what I should really
Mm.
remember.
Yeah.
And that was pivotal for me. And then I started working with my healer. That was a very pivotal moment because in doing the Reiki was amazing, and I realized some of my blockages that weren't clear. But in doing the family constellation for one other person, I started feeling what I actually was feeling for myself, but also remembering that I have so much light. And so she's acting out of fear,
Mm.
her own fears. She's afraid. My mom is very intuitive. She probably feels me and sees me, and it's just a coping mechanism that she has to have to try to put me down. And I come from a Catholic country and a Catholic family. Talking about grandparents, my parents weren't
Yep.
that
Yep.
much onto that, but my grandparents on both sides kind of were, particularly my mom. So all of that, and that helped me because I started to be like, okay, I am the light, and I am the light, and I am more powerful than you are, and I am more powerful than your
Mm.
fears, and I am more powerful than your projections. It was the most difficult part because I remember we had a big fight, and I could see she couldn't handle. So she almost tried to attack me, but she still couldn't handle me. And while I was fighting with her, I kept looking at her and being like, I'm the light. I am the light. She was like, you're the devil. I was like, no, I am the
Mm.
light. And that's also when I started working a lot with the angels. I found this guy that does meditations with the angels, and I just did that, and I connected with my grandma, her mom, and I just was like, you guys, you need to help me. Like I think that's the moment where my connection with the angels became the most important thing, but also I realized how I had a lot of sessions with psychic, and most of the time someone would be like, Archangel Michael is here. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know. Okay, fine. Okay. So it's not that it didn't mean anything to me, but because I come from that Catholic thing, angels is always a religious thing. And then I started to learn about their spiritual nature and all of that, but I wasn't as connected. So I was like, oh, okay, great, thanks. Thanks, Michael, for being here. And I remember my friend was like, Mara, Michael is the most powerful of the archangels. So, I mean, and he's the protector. I'm like, okay. But it still didn't click for me.
Yeah.
And then I started working with the angels, and I started working with my grandma, asking her to deal with her and to keep her, to keep her at bay. I started asking my dad for help. Um, and that's how I went through. But fear and feeling trapped were the most predominant feelings. Fear was so physical, like physical in the whole of my body. Um, all of my
Yeah.
belly. I literally felt it. Like I would feel like, it's kind of like when you get scared because someone opens the door suddenly and you didn't expect it, you just jump and you
Yes.
feel
Yeah.
that thing. That was a constant for me. Fear was the constant. And I realized that fear was more about being afraid she would take something away from me. And that's something that it's the most important for me is the work that I
Mm.
do, is the freedom that I got to experience by myself in terms of being free to do what I want by myself, not having someone always chatting around and trying to tell you something or making nasty comments, but also the freedom to express myself, to help others, and
Mm.
everything really, the
Yeah.
physical freedom, the emotional freedom, all of the things that I had released. um and also the fear that I could not become successful, because if I made money, then I her and my brother will come around and try to get that.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of work that I've done on that, where she was constantly trying to undermine me in every kind of way. If I was going out, if I wasn't going out, if I was having a session, whatever it was. And
Yeah.
luckily, I was having sessions with my clients in English, so she didn't know what we were talking about. But the few times I had sessions in Italian, she was always walking around my room, and then she would try to use what she heard against me. So it was horrible. Um, but now I'm like, I'm grateful
Yeah.
because
There's a lot of
everything
growth.
shifted. Yeah. And I don't think that's a thing that I realized, me being so far away. I was doing work, but I could always decide not to continue that kind of work and focus on something else, which is what I was doing. I was like, okay, yeah, I've done the work on this. Okay, let's move on. Like I want to make more money. I want more clients. I want this. I want that.
Yeah.
And somehow I was always taken back to that. And I would do a little bit of that session here, a couple of things there, and then okay, like let's move on. And I think it was my soul and my whole team was like, no, you have to do
Yes.
this and you have to
Yeah.
do it properly. And the only way for you to do it, since you don't listen, is to be there and feel as stuck and fearful as you can be. So then eventually you'll do something to get out of that.
I have found that as an entrepreneur myself, right, kind of doing similar work as you, I have found that, the money and all those things, a lot of times they're not even, the issues aren't even related to the money. The issues are related to that deeper inner work, to that stuff and the family of origin and all of that stuff. And in order to get what we want, and this is true for everyone, you don't have to be an entrepreneur for that, but
Yeah.
in order to live the life that we want, we dream, we desire, we do have to go in and do the inner work. And we have to meet those shadows, those hard parts of us, those hurt parts of us. We have to meet
Yeah.
them and do the work in order to live that life that we see, desire, and want for ourselves.
Yeah, totally. And I know it's scary. I have a lot of clients that start, the session before the chat before the sessions, and they're like, I'm scared that this is what I say is always, even if you think the biggest thing are gonna come up and too much is gonna come up for you to deal with, what really happens is that the work that you do can only meet you where you can handle. So whatever is going to
Yes.
come up, it's only something that you're able to see, you're able to eventually move through.
Yeah.
Nothing so big. Like I could have never been able to handle what I handled in 2021, 2 years, 3 years before, because
Right.
that
You were
was
not ready.
hard. I wasn't ready for sure. I only was able to handle that in that moment because of all of the work that I had done before, which, as sparse as it was, but eventually it kind of helped me to be where I was and be like, okay, it's either I go through this or I get killed by this. But in a
Yeah.
sense that my soul, like I will have to look for a job to get out of this because there is no other way, and that just wasn't an option.
Right.
especially not here in Italy. So you kind of become wise in your choices when you're doing that, because you can only deal with something, and that something's going to pop up, and then that something, you move through it and prepares you to something a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, but it's never going to be something so crazy that brings you so down that you cannot handle. So to
Yeah.
me, this is just like you said, but I think even more so when you start your business. I think that's when even more so you're put in front of all of the things that you're responsible for. And money
Yeah.
is the main thing,
Yes. Well,
right?
and money too is a sense of safety and security, right?
Yeah,
And so if your nervous system is dysregulated and chaos because you've been living in fear and being terrified your whole life, right? Like money or the lack of money or money not coming in or wondering where it's going to come simply escalates that fear
yeah,
and safety of that you're already in a heightened state. So it
yeah,
is fascinating how it all threads together and tangles together. And it's the
yeah,
unraveling work that we've got to do. So,
yeah. And
Mari,
I no,
you,
just something brief. I just want to say that every time people are like, "Oh yeah, I want to work on money, so I don't want to work on my family and my situation and how I grow up," I'm like, well, it's impossible because money is tied up to self-worth. And if you grow up in a chaotic environment, you probably don't feel worthy of anything. So,
right,
not love.
right.
Love was conditional. So, money was conditional. Probably you got money, you got stuff, thinking that was love. So, there is a lot that we need to talk about.
So
And
much
that's
tied. Yeah.
an essential part of the work.
Yes. Yes. You mentioned being intuitive. And so I just want to talk about that. Is that something that you've always known about yourself, or is that something that has grown and you've conditioned that muscle?
I think I realized I was intuitive when I was a teenager. Um, but it wasn't. I think my understanding of what that meant kind of grew as I was in my 20s and I started to be my 20s, because I used to dream stuff. I used to feel the way my intuition worked was always about how I felt with people. So if I met someone that happened since I was a child, just I have
Mm,
no idea and I couldn't explain it. My mom, as much as she had her pitfalls, but she's always also very intuitive. So she will take me very seriously if I said I don't like that person, because I think she felt in the same way. So if I, particularly when I was a child, if I met someone new and I had that really kind of reaction, like I don't want to be next to this person, she will listen. So that was
so it
my
was a strong
way.
awareness, a strong
Yeah,
awareness of someone else's energetic aura.
energetic. Yeah. And I had no idea, but I just knew. And then I had friends be like, but what is it that you don't like about that person? What's wrong with that? I was like, I don't know. I just don't like it. And then
It's hard to
eventually
explain.
things will happen. And they're like, oh my God, like, how did you know? I was like, I don't know. I just felt something.
Yes.
So that was my way of being intuitive, but I had no idea. I think when I started to make important choices for myself, not being able to rely on my family for advice, which I think was also a great thing because I really learned to make my own choices
Yep.
and not listen to their fears. Um, that was also another way for me to understand, oh, okay, so something is saying do this or choose this job, not this one, choose this job that pays you
Mm,
slightly less rather than that. And it was always about feeling good rather than feeling constricted, maybe, or feeling like
yeah.
it's too much. So that's the
So
way.
it became very natural then for you to follow that feeling good.
Yeah,
Okay.
not always, but I think the the most pivotal moment in that was when I moved to London. Like it was just such a thing that I could no longer hold down. And
Mm.
so my intuition was kind of screaming at me, like, you have to do it now.
Well,
I was like, okay. So I follow, and as I did that, I realized, oh, okay, so this happened. Like good thing, good things happen when I follow myself, which is not
yes,
necessarily always the thing, because like I moved here and not good things happened, but in a hindsight very good things happened. But in that
right.
sense, like, you know, when you follow yourself, then you kind of have a good luck happening continuously. So I started to notice those things. I started to notice that if I was feeling good, and if even like I when I moved to London, I used to work in advertising here in Milan. And when I moved to London, I tried to get a job in advertising. I couldn't find it. So I started doing all kinds of job, and I ended up working in a museum. And the pay was so little, but I was having so much fun. And that joy helped me to move through a lot of the moments that I don't think I would have been able to handle well if I wasn't feeling happy and good. And that was where my intuition was like, okay, this, not that, this, not that. So I started to notice. And then because I was reading all of the secrets and all of those kind of books about self-development, they talked a lot about intuition. I was like, oh, that's me. That happens to me. So then I was like, okay, this is the thing. And then I learned to follow more, and the more I followed, the more I realized. But I think that I learned about my gifts when I took my course for life coaching, because then I started to get interested in a lot of different things, because my coaching academy is very spiritual also. So all of those kind of things were in the modules. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so that's how I started to realize. And then I realized that I think my soul language has always been through colors, because they
Mm.
always made me very happy. Bright colors always made me very happy. And I had a horror reading one day, and I realized that you can actually work with colors. So I went mental and I started learning everything about color therapy, and I started doing sessions with color therapy. And I realized how I'm actually, like, I am a psychic, but I can tell you now without feeling like, oh no, my God, that's too much to say. But at the beginning, like I would do a color reading and read the color chart of one of my clients, and then random stuff will come up, for random information about these people will come up to me, and I was like, I don't know what to say, but this is coming true for me, and it doesn't make any sense. It's not written in your chart. This color doesn't mean that, but, and I would say, and then people will be like, I started with my friends first. And my friends were like, how did you know that? I never told you that. And I was like, I
Mm.
didn't know what to tell me more. Like, what were you talking? So I realized doing readings to my friends that the colors were kind of helping me to get into their energy and understand more. And as I started to have clients, I will go into past lives and ancestral stuff. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
All the
now I'm
pieces begin to
like,
fit. Yeah.
yeah. And so that the more I did stuff and the more I learned, the more I got curious, the more I was like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Now this is different. It's not just me feeling happy and so making the right choice, or understanding that person has a clash
Yeah.
with my energy. And so it's
Yeah.
not a good fit for me. There is a different kind of word around
Yeah.
it that it's more powerful than what I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious. So I would like to just hear a little bit of what was your soul guiding you as you moved in back in with your mom and all these things coming up and you're realizing you're having to go deeper. Well, what were some of the things your soul was guiding you during that time?
To stand up for myself and not be afraid of
So
trying.
the empowerment piece.
Yeah, yeah. Like the messages that I kept having, uh, were quite a few. One was, you're more powerful than you think. You can
Mm,
do this. And the other one was, you're not doing it just for you.
mm,
Um, and I had an ancestor reading, and I know that my gifts were buried. My grandmother took me somewhere, so gifts were buried, and I was the one chosen to take them out of the dark and just,
yeah.
so it made sense for me that I felt so much darkness around me, and my mom was kind of acting as that thing that cave that cat the gift in the dark, because my mom is very intuitive, and I
Hmm.
think my grandfather was as well, from her stories. So I think obviously there is a line of, but they probably couldn't share their
Well,
gifts.
I'm going to just
And
say that, I mean, your parents were of a different generation.
yeah,
Intuitive gifts, those kinds of things were not necessarily seen as good. I don't know about you,
yeah,
but to me, they were the occult and they were from the devil, and we
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
do
yeah,
any
yeah.
of those things, right? So it was totally just a different time. And the only thing I want to add to that is also this: everyone, every life, every human here has a choice to step into
Mhm.
their purpose and their plan to learn the things they came to learn, or they don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I know lots of people who are choosing not to learn the things they came to learn or not do the things they came to do.
yeah. We all do. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, Mara, what would you say if to someone who might be listening right now, who might be sitting in that relationship, whether it's a spouse or a mother or a father, that's sitting in that relationship that is just fearful and terrified of what's to come? What would you say to that person now?
First of all, start to try to connect as much as you can with what you feel inside. There is a part of you that is probably telling you this is wrong, you need to leave. And I do
Mm,
understand that. For me, it was easy because I could just fly around, but I do work with a lot of mothers. And when you have a husband that is making the money and you have kids, it's not an easy choice. I get
mhm.
that. Or sometimes it's just out of fear, out of pleasing people. But follow that part of yourself that is telling you get out, and
Mm,
start to read more. Start to connect to people that have gone through what you're going through and have been able to change their life. Try to create some sort of networking of people that can give you advice, that can help you, that can make you feel safe. Because even if I was by myself, and I could have asked some friends for money to just move back, and and then take my stuff away with me another time. I mean, I could have chosen to just book a flight, get a job in London, and then eventually sort myself out. But I knew I had a reason to be here. Whenever it was too much for me, I would just go out and go to the river, go to places to the park, those kind of places. Nature, obviously, to me, it's a very safe place and very calming. I would go out with my friend. I would do those things where at least you take away the tension and
mm,
you
mhm.
help yourself calm yourself a little bit more,
Yeah.
and you break that intense breaking down of your nervous system, because that's also what doesn't help you to stand up for yourself. It's when
Right.
you're constantly pushed to the limit and your nervous system is completely in shambles, and it's very difficult even to have a normal thought to be like, okay, I'm gonna get out. So maybe make a list of things that you can do when you feel in a certain way, especially if it's really difficult and it's really scary, and try to do those things. But one of the things that I would say is like a connection of people that can help you somehow.
Yeah.
And that could be a friend, that could be a safe place to be if you can, I don't know, sleep over for the night or even
Yeah.
just for a couple of hours. And slowly, slowly try to take even a super small action. maybe you get in touch. I don't know if it's a matter of uh, marriage or something. I don't know. How can you make more money? How can you get a job? How can you get a better pay? How can you talk to a lawyer? What are the things that you can or you cannot do? It just sometimes just that tiny thing, and knowing that, oh, okay, if I do this, I can do that, or if I and that helps, having a tiny little bit of a plan or a tiny little bit of more information, and that space for yourself, it's important because it helps you to reconnect and break that craziness that you feel inside, that fear that you feel inside. The
Yeah.
moment I was out, that will help me. I will just sit on in the park and just journal everything I could, meditate, and I had to come back to the same person, but also she would calm down as well somehow.
Right.
So you
Right. Right.
break that tension where they are onto you, and the more they feel that you're afraid, the more they get onto you. If you break that, it changes the dynamic. It helps you to move through it.
Yes. So I love what you said, like the educate, like kind of begin to learn, begin to educate yourself. And so what I would add is what you're talking about is a little bit of awareness, right?
Yeah,
And it's one of those things like you can't unknow something. So once you have that knowledge, once you have that awareness that of this or of that, or I got to get out of here. I got to go, put my feet in the sand or in the grass just simply to come back and ground that awareness. You can't unknow that. So it's going to become a thread for you, right?
yeah, yeah,
To help yourself move through this, whatever it is, but also move through toward what's going to help you.
yeah, yeah. And try to connect as much, ask for help to
Yeah.
your angels. And you might be a religious person, you might not be. Uh, you might not believe in anything, but if you're able to connect to something, maybe it's someone that passed away, that's enough. Someone that you love, maybe it's a pet that
Yeah.
passed away, maybe, but try to, or ask your higher self to come through and help you there. We are connected somehow. And I
Yeah.
know you probably, your listeners are all very spiritual people to be listening to this, but you never know, maybe this has helped, but you need to send it to someone that doesn't believe in anything. So try to connect to either that there is a stronger part of yourself that it's there and
Yes.
you
Well,
know
it's
it.
it's within you. It is
It's
within you.
within you.
Like, yes, you can go seek
It's not
outside, but
out there in that moment because you're in deep fear. So that part of yourself is kind of hiding because you're in deep fear, but it's there. So if you cannot connect to your angels, your ancestral, whoever you normally connect to that strong part of yourself, connect to
yeah,
your
yeah,
intuition, and ask for help, ask for maybe the situation to calm down. Is that what, if that's what you need, or what action can I take today to feel better, to release this, whatever. Ask and wait
my
for the answer
favorite
to
question,
come.
my favorite question in those moments is, what do I need to see, hear, feel, or know right now?
Yeah,
Asking all my senses, all my intuition, because it's within me, right? My guides know, my spirit knows, my body knows, knows, my soul's within me. What do I need to see, hear, feel, or know right now? And whatever comes, trust that, because that you have asked from your inner, you have asked for the highest good from within yourself. Your soul is going to respond. Your body's going to give you what you need.
yeah,
So it's my favorite
yeah.
question.
Yeah, there's always an answer somehow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
trust that it comes maybe from a song, or maybe it comes from within, it
Yep.
comes in a dream. It You will always get an answer. And also ask for protection.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was always like, please, please help, please protect me, please make me feel. I was constantly begging for help because I felt so helpless, and it's not natural for me to feel that way. So even for me, feeling that way made me feel even worse, because it's like,
Yeah.
how is it that someone like me is having difficulties in handling this? It shouldn't be like this. I should, with everything I've been doing, all the things that I do to with my clients, I should be at a different level, but I had to go through. So I was like, asking everyone for help, and the help came all of the
Yes.
times, every time
Yep.
I asked.
Yep. Mara, this has been a truly honest conversation, and I am so grateful that you joined me today and shared a little bit about your story and that pivotal moment and the work that you've had to do. It isn't easy. This healing work, it isn't easy. And yet, you're through it enough, you can see all the gifts that were for you and all the growth. And that, I believe, is what our souls came here to do. So
Oh,
thank you
yeah.
so much for sharing.
Thank you, Brenda, for allowing me to share my story.
Yes. And so, to those who are listening, like if this conversation stirred something up within you, I invite you to take a moment to pause, reflect, and ask, what was in it for me? What was there in this conversation that's for me? What did I need to hear? And then go journal about it or share about it with a safe and trusted friend. Get it out. Help your body to process this new truth, this new awareness that you might have just encountered. You can find the links to Mara and myself in the show notes. And so until next time, keep leaning into your truth and honoring your journey. This is Brenda Stott Tomlinson, and you're listening to the Mind, Body, Soul Mastery podcast.